is. The instructions say put it in water, but I like almond milk. I don't eat enough nuts as it is, so. Okay, now I've got my little milk frother.
Good evening. I'm still reporting on the war in Israel. I was randomly moving through the television channels this morning and stumbled across the last few minutes of a talk given by the owner of the JBS Network, the Jewish Broadcasting Service, a nonprofit American Jewish television network developed by Rabbi Mark S. Golub in 2003. The goal of this organization is to reach out to lesser affiliated Jews and bring them closer to their Jewish religion and identity. In other words, up to 70% of the American Jewish population has intermarried, according to Rabbi Golub, and they tend not to visit Israel nor be as supportive of Israel as other Jews. In other words, they have become more secular Jews. In the spirit of everything I produce on this channel, I found this very interesting. I had never read anything on the Jewish perspective on peace and war, and so this was an interesting snapshot to share with my audience. I don't know how representative this perspective is amongst the Jewish community, either in the U.S. or worldwide, and so freely admit my ignorance on the subject. I have a feeling this is going to bring about a spirited debate in the comments section, which is always welcomed as long as it is civil. Anti-Jewish or anti-Palestinian remarks are forbidden in comments because this can quickly become inflammatory, which does no one any good.
There are people who say, Israel is wonderful, but. There's no but. There is no but. There's an and. Israel is wonderful, and it's working to be even better. It's never but. It's this, that, It's genius, it's moral, it's embracing, it permits Arabs to celebrate the Nakba, which is an attempt to say the state of Israel should be destroyed. And what you should know is, very important, there is one overarching Jewish value. And then you ask yourself, is Israel living this value? And the rabbis know this value. There is one value that supersedes all other Jewish values. Pikuach nefesh. Do you know the phrase pikuach nefesh? Pikuach nefesh is colloquially translated as saving life. It's a Talmudic principle that says, if there's a possibility that you can save a life, you suspend every other law of the Jewish tradition, including the most sanctified law, the law of Shabbat. The law of Shabbat is suspended to save a life. The ultimate Jewish value is protecting life. Everything comes next. And in that context, there's the concept of the rodef. The rodef means the pursuer. Sometimes there comes a pursuer who wants to do you harm or wants to kill you. The Torah does not give you an option. Jewish law, halacha, is inviolate. You have a responsibility, says our tradition, to do everything you can to stop the rodef from injuring you, your wife, your husband, your child, your brother, your friend, your community. Use the least force necessary, but if it means taking his life, you take his life and you don't apologize. The two overarching principles are corollaries. Pikuach nefesh, and to stop the rodef. The tragedy of the current situation in Israel is that while the Jew is welcome to, wants to embrace the Ger Toshav, if the Ger Toshav's intent, if everything the Ger Toshav wants to do is to destroy you, to take your life, your wife's life, your child's life, your friend's life, your brother's life, your uncle's life, your sister's life, and your community's life, then you have no choice. That's the morality of the State of Israel. And the State of Israel will tomorrow embrace every Ger Toshav who wanted to live in peace. And in the meantime, the State of Israel has an obligation, and we should support it, to do everything it can to protect itself, its people, always looking for peace, but never being so bleary-eyed. As Golda Meir said, just because we want it doesn't mean it's true. It's in that context that I commend to you what we do here, following these two rabbis, is that you must know so much of what you heard tonight, that if you ever hear somebody suggest Israel is not this or that, you correct the error and you put it in context. And you love Israel as you love your child. They're not perfect. They are magnificent.
It's been said by members of the current government in Israel that their policy is essentially a creeping one-state solution. And a one-state, I believe, will be not fully democratic and turbulent. As an American Jewish liberal Zionist, maybe they have those personas may have different opinions, but what are your opinions on imposing a one-state solution on the Palestinians?
I'm uncomfortable with it. And I don't believe it's going to happen. I will say, and here I'm distinguishing, I told you what I feel I know as fact. This is really opinion you're asking me. And so here I'm humble here. I don't claim to be smarter in this than anybody in this room. There are people very much wiser than me. Carolyn Glick is an example. You laughed at Carolyn Glick's name. Carolyn Glick is an example. She wrote a book about the one-state solution. She argues that the demographics will never threaten the State of Israel, even if you were to annex the West Bank. There are those who believe that there should be serious economic incentive for Palestinians on the West Bank, if it's ever annexed, to be given economic reasons to leave. There are those, I met with a guy who was on L'chaim 2 weeks ago. He's convinced that within 10 years, the king of Jordan is going to change. It will no longer be a Hashemite kingdom. It will become the state of the Palestinians, and all the Palestinians on the West Bank will move. I met with a guy this week. He is advocating the new state solution, where they will create a beautiful Gan Eden of a state for the Palestinians from Gaza down into the Sinai Desert along the Mediterranean Sea. The problem is this. The Palestinians don't want a solution. Israel is dying for a solution. And you and I understand Israel has to be a Jewish democratic state, although I don't know that you'll agree with me here. If I had to choose, I want a Jewish, and I'll sacrifice some kind of democracy. And what I really believe you can do is, I want the Ger Toshav model, the biblical Ger Toshav model. This is the Ger Toshav model in the Torah. Anybody who wants to live with us in peace is welcome, has every social, civil, medical, educational right, every economic opportunity. They don't have one thing. They don't have the right to vote. Because it's not theirs. They're guests. The Jewish state is an anomaly. It is a state for the Jews, and ultimately, we don't want to go out of existence by attrition. So, my feeling is that this is more of a theoretical issue than a real issue. I do understand those who argue, just keep the status quo the way it is. It's worked for this long, and who knows what will happen. Now, last thing, and then we're going to, if there's another question. There are people who argue that Iran has changed the entire dynamic in the Arab world, and for the first time, Arab states, not the Palestinians, really want this Palestinian issue off the table, and they're going to go to the Palestinians and say, in essence, you fix it or you're gone. What will happen, I don't know.
I'm still reporting from just outside the citadel of world freedom. Good day.